Hello, good evening, Monday evening. Thank you for joining us. I'm Roger Johnson. Welcome to North West Tonight. Our top story this evening, £1.5 billion for transport projects in the region's towns as the government allocates savings from scrapping HS2. The Prime Minister says that it will be transformational. The critics disagree. We'll look at the plans. Also tonight, new research finds that we have more children struggling with basic literacy skills than anywhere else. A weekend of silverware after Wigan won the World Club Challenge. Liverpool started Klopp's long farewell with a trophy.
In my more than 20 years, easily the most special trophy I ever won.
We ruined everything. The economy.
40 years after perhaps the ultimate satire show, The Locals, who featured on both sides of spitting image.
And it was a beautiful start today on the Isle of Man. Clear blue skies. How are we looking for tomorrow? Join me at the end of the programme. I've got a feeling you'll need your brolly.
Now, when the government announced in October that it was scrapping the second stage of HS2, the high-speed rail link from Birmingham north to Manchester, it said that the money would instead be used for transport projects across the country. About £36 billion of HS2 savings will be used for local roads, rail and buses. Well, today the Prime Minister told us that that will mean £1.5 billion for the North West to be allocated through a local transport fund from 2025 to 2032. The government says it will be transformational. Labour, though, says it's just a re-announcement, which is a back of a fag packet plan. So how much of this is smoke and mirrors, and what is genuinely spreading opportunity, in the Prime Minister's words? Andy Gill has this report.
The government says millions of people across the North West will benefit from the cash that was going to be used for HS2 between Birmingham and Manchester. And it's smaller cities and towns and rural areas that are set to profit. One North West Conservative MP, who called for the high-speed line to be scrapped because of costs, has welcomed today's announcement.
Well, fabulous local funding, local transport funding, and it's the first time ever that this amount of money has been given over a long period of time, so you can have that long-term vision on what people want funding for the local transport.
So who's in the HS2 money here in the North West? Lancashire Council gets the most with £494 million. Staying in that part of the world, Blackpool gets just over 120 million, and Blackburn with Darwen gets nearly 117 million. Over in Cheshire, Cheshire East has 180 million pounds, Cheshire West and Chester gets 168 million, and Warrington gets 121 million. Finally, in the North West, in Cumbria, Cumberland Council gets 148 million pounds, and Westmoreland and Furness gets £128 million. It all adds up to £1.5 billion for the North West. But some North West leaders say the money doesn't compensate for HS2 connections which have been lost.
What this has done is taken away an important and fundamental part of the infrastructure in the UK, which is to connect the north with the south. But that same infrastructure was going to be used for west-east connectivity also.
The government suggested the cash be used for things like improving bus and train stations, putting in charging points for electric vehicles and making streets safer for children. The Prime Minister's also called for local residents to have a say on where the money goes.
That was Andy Gill reporting. He's here now. Lots in there. Lots of people might see changes on their streets, in their towns, wherever they live. It leaves the cities out, doesn't it, of course? Greater Manchester and over in Liverpool. But when's it going to happen?
Well, the money is available from next year, but it's over 7 years. The government says that allows these councils to do long-term transport planning. It allows them to liaise with the big cities, Manchester and Liverpool, which have a separate pot of money, to liaise with them over projects that might straddle both areas. Critics, however, say 7 years is a long time. There'll be lots happening in that time: a general election, almost certainly another central government spending review. The government says this is transformational. It'll grow the economies in these areas. Labour, as you mentioned earlier, say it's not new money, it's a re-announcement of old money.
OK. Andy, thank you. Andy Gill there with a look at those announcements today regarding transport. Now, children in the North West are struggling with essential literacy skills more than anywhere else in the country. New research from Pro Bono Economics and the National Literacy Trust found a third of children were not up to the national standard by the age of 5, and they claim that the issues can have a huge economic cost as children later struggle with exams and risk unemployment. Katie Barnfield has this report.
For reception class at St Andrew's Primary School in Oswaldtwistle, reading is a key part of their learning.
And this one looks like he's pointing his finger. What's he saying?
He's upside down.
But teachers here say struggles with literacy are becoming more and more common among their pupils.
Sometimes when we try and read them a story, I'd say maybe we've not got any pictures and they have to just listen, they find that more difficult, because quite often now in our world we're watching something online, we're watching something on the iPad. There's always something to look at to give us clues about what we're talking about, so we might not use our listening skills as much.
Research by Pro Bono Economics and the National Literacy Trust found the North West is the worst performing area in the country, with 33% of children struggling with literacy at age 5. They claim the economic cost is around £107 million for every cohort that start reception already behind.
What we see time and time again is the link between poverty, areas of deprivation and children's poor literacy. We know it has a huge impact on children's literacy.
At St Andrew's Primary, they've even started taking children from age 2 to try and combat the problem.
We've taken the children earlier because when they're with teachers and people that they're not as familiar with and other children, it really brings the language up. So this is one of the examples that we're using in our reception class. It's got the sounds here, showing the children how to sound them out, and then by the end of the book they can sound them out and read them for themselves.
Who hasn't read yet, Maddie? Do you want to read?
Noble Banquet.
Paul Burns teaches the Year 6 class here and says the problems in early years are having a knock-on effect as children get older.
When we're doing written work, if they don't understand the sentence structure because of having read lots of different texts, that can be quite challenging.
And are these problems continuing as the kids start secondary school as well?
It definitely is, yeah. We do a lot of transition stuff with the local secondary schools, and they're finding that the children that are coming into them are lower than they used to be in previous years. So I know that there are some local secondary schools that are employing primary school teachers to teach the children at the level that we are doing now as well.
The teachers here say they are doing everything they can to stop this avoidable issue having an impact throughout their students' lives. Katie Barnfield, BBC North West Tonight in Lancashire.
A Wirral man has been found dead in his boat while taking part in a fundraising challenge. Michael Holt, who lived in Heswell, was attempting to row 3,000 miles across the Atlantic from Gran Canaria to Barbados. He was raising money for Liverpool charity and voluntary services. Lots more stories on the BBC News website tonight, including 3 men from Greater Manchester who tried to shoot dead a 16-year-old boy have each been jailed for 32 years. Plans for a £40 million housing development in the north of the Isle of Man have been rejected. The planners there say that they were concerned about the effects on local wildlife. And the former wife of George Harrison is auctioning letters which lift the lid on her notorious love triangle with Eric Clapton and the late Beatle. You might have seen that on the national news. Those stories and many more at bbc.co.uk/news, or you can access them via the BBC News app. A Lancashire charity, which has helped thousands of former heart patients to stay healthy, says it will have to start cutting services unless it can secure extra funding. More than 900 people a week go to Heartbeat, which runs fitness classes in 9 centres. But although most of them are informally referred by the NHS, the charity doesn't get any public funding. Here's our health correspondent, Jill Dummigan.
At this gym class, everyone's motivation's clear.
I had a heart valve replaced, I had stenosis of the aorta.
Well, I had a heart attack back in January of last year.
Well, I had heart surgery at Blackpool 4 years ago.
For more than 40 years, this charity's been providing classes at affordable cost to people whose lives depend on staying fit.
I love it. It's fantastic. You know, like I say, you get fit, you get your confidence back.
Best thing I've ever done. Been brilliant here. People have been brilliant. I feel great.
The thing about Heartbeat is it's not just a gym. You're surrounded by people who have had similar experiences, and of course your backup is a medical team who, if things go pear-shaped, you've got them there.
OK, nice slow walk to start with.
That team also provides an NHS standard examination before starting, but this charity costs £1 million a year to run, and that's becoming a struggle.
We're now looking after over 900 people a week. We've got classes all over the North West, and unfortunately, especially post-COVID, all prices have gone up for everything that we use. The only thing that's not gone up is funding.
Most of the people here have been referred by the NHS. The idea is to keep them fitter so they don't need as many of its services again. But this is an entirely self-funding charity. So should some of that funding be coming from the NHS? The charities tried to apply for grants before but found the process too difficult. The National Council for Voluntary Organisations says it's a common problem and the whole thing needs to be simplified.
And we know that this kind of work requires stability, it requires sustainable funding, it requires planning for the future. Often the impacts that organisations are hoping to create in their communities take many years to play out. And, you know, you want people in communities to have the reassurance that the service they need is going to be there for the long term.
Here, they're starting on another funding bid and ramping up the fundraising.
If we don't get funding from somewhere else, the worry is Heartbeat won't be here in 2-3 years. So anybody further down the line or somebody's family, they won't have Heartbeat to come to, and that would be a terrible shame.
NHS England said they couldn't formally comment, but did say that legislation passed in 2022 supported local health funding for suitable charities. Jill Dummigan, BBC North West Tonight, Preston.
Now, in February 1988, around 20,000 people took to the streets of Manchester to protest about the government's introduction of Section 28, the controversial law which banned the promotion of homosexuality by local authorities. It was, and still remains, the biggest LGBT rights march in British history, and now rare footage from it is about to be made public, as Stuart Pollitt has been finding out.
A mass of people making their way through Manchester. Nick filmed this footage. He travelled from Leicester with a camcorder he'd bought with his first paycheck.
Basically, I was there because the theme was never going underground, and I felt that I was being pushed back underground by this government legislation, and I was just angry enough that I wanted to do something about it and be one of the crowd. Little did we know how big this was going to be, incidentally.
There were people outside the bars cheering and supporting us, so it was a huge demonstration.
Paul helped organise the march, but on the day, he was unsure how popular it would prove to be.
Yeah, we had no idea how many people would turn up at the beginning of the march. Coaches and coaches appear, so it was a really joyous but also really angry demonstration.
The march ended up at the town hall with a big rally in Albert Square. There were 20,000 people who attended that day. It remains the biggest LGBT march in British history.
So sing if you're glad to be gay, sing if you're happy that way.
In Albert Square there were speeches from celebrity activists like Sir Ian McKellen.
Clause 28 is in parts designed to keep us in our place. But it didn't work with me. Because I, like you, am now out, and I'm out and about.
That's what I find the most poignant. It's all those people are now locked in time, but they're in full colour. They're all shouting and screaming and singing and all the rest of it. And it brings back the anger, but also that kind of comradeship that came together on the day.
This week, Nick's footage will be shown and Paul will be talking to students at Manchester Metropolitan University about the march.
There's lots of interest from young LGBT people. It's great that people are aware, so it's really great that people are interested. But also that we learn from our history, and today there's still struggles in this country and across the world, impacts on people attacking and demonising LGBT people.
Approaching 40 years on, the fight over Section 28 has been won. But for campaigners like Paul, more battles remain. Stuart Pollitt, BBC North West Tonight, Manchester.
Amazing to think it was nearly 40 years ago. Right, let's move on to sport. Richard is here. Some good news for Everton today.
Yeah.
A successful, or partly successful, appeal against that 10-point penalty over the financial rules.
Yes, Roger, down to 6 points, which moves the Blues, crucially, 5 points clear of the relegation zone as well. Well, Ian Haslam is at Goodison Park for us tonight to get reaction. This is just what the club and Blues supporters will be hoping for, you'd think, Ian.
Absolutely, yeah, Rich. I think the overriding feeling here at Goodison Park this evening will be one of relief, given the fact that that 10-point deduction, when it was handed out the real possibility of relegation. It was certainly a huge threat for Everton this season, yet today, without a ball even being kicked, Everton have moved from 21 to 25 points, which in turn takes them up from 17th to 15th in the Premier League table. Everton were initially docked 10 points for breaching the Premier League's financial rules. That's because clubs are permitted to lose £105 million over 3 years, but an independent commission found Everton's losses to season 2021 amounted to £124.5 million. The club had appealed the decision and this afternoon said it was satisfied with the reduction in the point sanction. It went on to say the club is also particularly pleased with the appeals board's decision to overturn the original finding that the club failed to act in utmost good faith. The club therefore feels vindicated in pursuing its appeal. So that's what the club had to say. Here's what the fans we eventually found here at Goodison had to say too.
Well, it's better than having no points given back, but shouldn't have got them all back, shouldn't he, really?
It's definitely a relief. It's obviously don't have to win an extra game to make it up, but it's still not a good thing. No more getting relegated.
Was that a genuine fear you get relegated?
Yeah, of course. Seen the season. We're having it. It's terrible.
But you're staying up now, you reckon?
Yeah, I hope so. Bit of positivity in the club, innit?
Everton aren't out of the woods. Everton aren't out of the woods just yet, though. They still face another possible sanction after being charged with alleged breaches of profit and sustainability rules. That case has to be heard by April the 8th. There's also continued uncertainty over the club's ownership situation, with Everton still waiting approval from the Premier League over a potential takeover by American investment fund 777 Partners. What we do know for sure is that Everton's next match will be here on Saturday against West Ham in the Premier League. Rich.
Ian, thank you. Good news for the Blues. If you're a fan of the Warriors, you'll probably still be celebrating the club's record-equalling 5th World Club Challenge title. The Warriors beat Penrith Panthers 16-12 at a sold-out DW Stadium. I was there for a victory that was packed with drama and emotion.
World Club Challenge winners!
World champions after an incredibly dramatic final that for Wigan fans means the world.
I've been watching Wigan for 66 years, so it's one of the best nights ever.
Absolutely everything, it means the world.
It's just brilliant tonight. This will go down in history.
O'Neill finds French.
There is no doubt it will, after a thrilling game that swung one way and then the other, with 2 tries each before the break.
What a try from Wigan!
The Warriors were under huge pressure in the second half, but refused to break, with Jake Wardle snatching the key score.
Wardle's got it here!
The drama, though, was far from over, and in the very last attack of the match, it looked as though Penrith had snatched victory. This was the moment the Warriors knew that their try had been ruled out.
It's delirium of the DW! Top of the world! Come on!
What a moment this is for Wigan Warriors, who've made history tonight, winning their 5th World Club Challenge, cheered on by these ecstatic fans on what's been an incredibly proud moment for everyone wearing cherry and white.
They are the club champions of the world!
Great night, very proud of my players. Love them to bits. We came up against an unbelievable team tonight and we did enough to win, so we're going to enjoy it.
How are you feeling after that? It was so dramatic.
Incredible. What a feeling. We've brought our name in the history books of this great club and the history of rugby league, and being a Wigan lad, it's something that you dream of, and these last 2 years have been incredible, and hopefully we can keep building, but we'll enjoy tonight, and I think these are the ones we'll talk about in years and years to come. It's just a great atmosphere, and you know they won silverware and we've given some tonight.
You certainly have, and enjoy it, Liam. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
And you, Ernie.
All part of a remarkable night for Liam and his team, who defied the odds to write themselves into history at the DW Stadium.
Just brilliant, Roger, and great to see. You could see just what it means to Wigan fans.
Terrific achievement. Rich, thank you very much. Looked like a good night out, I have to say. Right, weather with Kay in just a moment, but it's been 40 years since Spitting Image hit our screens. The satirical puppet show first aired on ITV in 1984 and featured puppet caricatures of celebrities and public figures. One of the key impressionists came from Lancashire, while one of the figures regularly lampooned is now among our viewers. Good evening, Edwina. Sean Filcher's been for a trip down memory lane.
Speak up, man, for God's sake. Say what you mean. You're not on the platform now.
Created by Peter Fluck and Roger Law, the satirical puppet show Spitting Image savagely mocked famous faces. At its peak, the show was watched by 15 million people. John Culshaw voiced around 40 characters between 1994 and 96.
I can remember watching the first episode and seeing the extremes of the puppet caricatures. And because the puppets were huge and these enormous caricatures, the voices had to be huge as well.
How long does it take you to perfect getting someone's voice then?
To perfect a voice, sometimes you might get them instantly. If they're very recognisable. A Simon Cowell voice, for example, is probably quite, an instant one. It's very laconic. There's that familiar style. So you might be sort of straight in with that one.
In 1986, Edwina Curry became the junior health minister, and her puppet was soon introduced to the show.
I thought, I haven't got a big nose like that. Actually, I have. My eyebrows don't do that. Actually, they do. And I was being portrayed as a bit sort of Cruella de Vil and as a vampire with dripping blood on my teeth, which I found really very hurtful. On the other hand, you realise fairly quickly that it meant I was recognised by lots of people. So that meant that we became really well known.
Margaret Thatcher was portrayed as the best man in Cabinet, which Edwina says she played up to.
She ditched the frills and she started to wear much more mannish suits with big lapels and white shirts and so on. And her voice dropped. And she ended up sounding more like Stephen Allen than Stephen Allen did.
In 2020, the show returned to our screens featuring caricatures of more recent politicians like Boris Johnson and Donald Trump. It seems no celebrity is ever safe from the ridicule of Spitting Image. Sean Filcher, BBC North West Tonight.
It was brilliant. I can't honestly believe, Kay, that you're protesting that you're too young to remember it.
I'm far too young.
It was so good. Sunday night, every week. It was brilliant.
No, we do remember John Major, Margaret Thatcher.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was good. It was a good programme. Think about the old programmes. Hello there. I've been a bit naughty, actually. I'm going to get told off when I leave the studio because look at who the weather watcher is today. Oh, me. I was in Morecambe Bay. Oh, it was freezing. I can't tell you why, but it was nippy. The sea breeze, honestly, a real chill in the air. Quite a keen breeze today. But we had lots of sunny spells. There were some showers as well. I've seen some rainbow pictures. This week, we're looking at frost to start. It will get milder towards the end of the week. We're looking at double fronts coming through tomorrow and Wednesday. So tomorrow, a warm front, then a cold front. Basically, it means you are going to need your umbrella tomorrow. Through this evening, it's dry, it's clear, it's fine. There'll be a frost at first, especially further south. Merseyside, Greater Manchester will get below freezing. Temperatures start to rise as we head towards the end of the night, as we get that front coming through. And for the Isle of Man, you're likely to see some outbreaks of rain. Now, that front is going to continue to work its way right across us. Patchy outbreaks of rain, there'll be some heavier downpours for a time. Take your brolly where you go. It will be a fairly keen southwesterly breeze. Freshest, once again, along the coast and for the hills. Temperatures just slightly above average for the time of year. 10 is 50 in Fahrenheit. We sort of repeat the performance on Wednesday as well. Another warm front following on by a more active cold front, so there will be some heavier rain, and low pressure stays with us as we head through Thursday, Friday and into the weekend, so there will be further outbreaks of rain. Brightest of the weather first thing on Wednesday. It's going to cloud over. We're going to see further outbreaks of rain pushing through. It's that cold front, a bit more active on the back of it. Temperatures again around about 10 degrees, 50 in Fahrenheit. Heavy rain overnight into Thursday. Stays unsettled, wet and windy to start Friday. It improves through the day.
Not too bad, is it?
Oh, it's not too
quite cold over the weekend, I must admit. I was...
Nippy.
It was nippy.
Someone told me today they had 2 water bottles. 2,
Really?
Roger.
Is that while you were taking your photo for the weather?
Oh, my weather watching me. Yes.
Good night, thanks for watching.